At the top of the newscast, we talked about John Denver having Minnesota roots. That's true. Both friends and fans here remember him well, because it was in Minnesota that he started his solo career and met a woman who inspired him to make memorable music.
See the sunlight through the pine.
He was the clean-cut singer, a mix of country and folk. And during the 70s, his music was red hot across the world. WCCO's entertainment reporter Bill Carlson interviewed and subsequently became friends with Denver some 30 years ago. In fact, Denver sang at his wedding.
When you and Nancy get married, I want to be there, and I want to sing for you. He wrote a song called Follow Me, which he sang for us at the wedding.
It was while performing at Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter that Denver met his wife Annie. And from 1969 to 1971, the two lived here in this Edina apartment complex. And while in Minnesota, the two adopted 2 children, and Denver wrote a couple of what would be hits, including a song dedicated to his wife.
You fill up my senses like a night in a forest.
His career included 14 gold albums and 8 platinum. He was considered a giant in the music industry. He even crossed over into the world of acting. In 1977, he played opposite George Burns in the movie Oh God.
I don't believe the Red Sea, and I don't believe 6 days to create.
And one of his loves was flying, a love that ultimately cost him his life. Nearly a quarter century after he started his career, his music is still found at record stores, and you can still find fans.
Everybody likes John Denver.
When you heard about his death, what was your reaction?
Well, the lady just told me in the store. I was surprised. Sad. That's too bad.
John was a man who was most articulate when he was singing. When he was talking, he was not always so articulate, but when he was singing, he seemed to communicate with people from all countries, all nationalities, all languages.
Moonlight on the Seine.
Federal investigators are in Monterey, California. They are trying to recover what's left of Denver's plane to determine the cause of the crash. John Denver was 53 years old.
Well, we're going to...
WCCO's Bill Carlson was a good friend of John Denver's.
Indeed so.
And Bill, I understand he also sang at your wedding?
That's right, he did. Nancy and I had just become engaged in 1969 when he moved to this area. And when we met John and his then wife Annie, and early on he'd said he'd like to take part in our wedding, and there he is doing just that. It was early in John's solo career, but he was to be a major hit almost immediately.
On the water, look so lovely.
John loved to make friends. His successful concerts seemed often to have almost as many friends backstage as fans out front. It was during a college concert at Gustavus Adolphus in St. Peter that he met Annie Martell. And when they were married, she was to cultivate his love for Minnesota and Minnesotans of all backgrounds and occupations. Former Governor Wendell Anderson was a friend.
Well, in the 70s, we're very, very close. I met him actually through politics. He sang at my inaugural. We used to be golfing buddies. I'm proud to say I was very helpful to he and his wife when they adopted the children, and I'm godparent for their son.
His 3 children became the focus of a life that had formerly been centered on singing, flying, and nature.
The most precious words in the world are Daddy. You know, and the smile that comes on that face when you walk in the door. It's just a real wonderful blessing in my life.
Though the call of the mountains was the siren song that took him away from Minnesota, he always kept in touch with his many friends here, and those friends will never forget him.
Rocky Mountain High. Rocky Mountain High.
John Denver was 53. He would have been 54 years old on New Year's Eve.
Bill, you didn't tell us what he sang at your wedding.
Well, he had just written a song called Follow Me, which he sang for us. He did Andy Williams' May Each Day. Remember, May Each Day in the week be a good day. And an old favorite of mine called I'm Glad There Is You.
All right. Sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Okay. On to other news. John Denver's death has left his fans grieving all over the world, but there's a different sort of sadness being felt by a select few here in Minnesota. a much more personal sense of loss for those who remember his Minnesota days.
Take me home.
A long time ago, 30 years or so, John Denver staged a concert in St. Peter, Minnesota on the campus of Gustavus Adolphus. A chance meeting with a local student, Annie Martell, led to marriage and a home here in Minnesota.
And people
WCCO's Bill
talked to us for
Carlson
about
got to
a
know
half
him
hour,
then became
constantly from
fast
all over the
friends.
audience.
This picture from 1971 shows 6 very close friends. That's Bill and his wife Nancy, John and Annie there, and the other buddy is former Governor Wendell Anderson.
I met him actually through politics. He was sang at my inaugural. We used to be golfing buddies. I'm proud to say I was very helpful to he and his wife when they adopted the children, and I'm godparent for the son.
Denver asked to sing at Bill and Nancy's wedding.
He said, when you and Nancy get married, I want to be there, and I want to sing for you.
In 1985, he came back to take part in a WCCO project called the Peace Child Space Bridge. I had the pleasure of introducing him to a worldwide satellite audience. He returned in 1993 to release a rehabilitated eagle brought back to health by the Raptor Center. But his biggest Minnesota moment happened inside this Edina apartment building where he and his wife lived from 1969 to 70. Here he wrote his biggest hit, a tune called Annie's Song, penned for the girl he fell in love with that day a long time ago in St. Peter, Minnesota.
Like a night in a forest, like the mountains in springtime, like a walk in the rain, like a storm in the day.